Python rising/falling edge oscilloscope-like trigger. I'm trying to detect rising and or falling edges in a number py vector, based on a trigger value. This is kinda like how oscilloscope triggering works. The number py vector contains floating point values. The trigger itself is a floating point value. I would expect this to work as such. In other words, it would work like np.where, returning a vector containing the positions where the condition is true. I know I can simply iterate over the vector and get the same result, which is what I'm doing, but it isn't ideal, as you can imagine. Is there some functionality built into number py that can do this using optimized C code? Or maybe in some other library? Thank you.
We could slice one off and compare against the trigger for smaller than and greater than, like so. If you would like to include equality as well, i.e. is lower than or equal to or equals, simply add that into the comparison. To include for both rising and falling edges, add the comparison the other way.
So I was just watching the latest 3 blue 1 brown video on convolution when I realized a new way of doing this. So get all the positions where the data is larger or equal to the threshold, do a convolution over it with 1, minus 1, and then just find where the convolution returns a 1 for a rising edge. Want a falling edge? Look for minus 1 instead. Pretty neat, if I do say so myself. And it's about 5 to 10% faster.
The way I made it while programming in MicroPython for the Raspberry Pi Pico is, I keep reading the state of the signal, high or low, and storing it for later. When later comes I make a reading again and compare the old and the current signal. If the old signal was high and the current is low, I know I had a falling edge. The same way, if the old signal was low and the current is high, I know I had a rising edge. Here is my take: how can I discriminate the falling edge of a signal with Python?
Please subscribe.